The Zoranite delegation established their temporary embassy in Geneva, a sprawling structure of liquid metal and crystalline spires that assembled itself in mere hours. Admiral Thorne watched the alien diplomats glide through the hallways of the United Nations, their silvery skin reflecting the fluorescent lights as humans scrambled to accommodate them. "You understand," Xelveric said, his translator pendant pulsing with each syllable, "that your species requires guidance. Your wars, your environmental degradation, these are the growing pains all young civilizations experience." Thorne forced a diplomatic smile. "We appreciate your concern, Ambassador." Behind the public meetings, the Zoranites were growing increasingly agitated. Their science officer, Kelnera, had spent 3 days analyzing samples from the Jerusalem dig site. She burst into Xelveric's private chambers, her normally smooth silver skin rippled with stress patterns. "The artifacts are incongruent with our understanding of Earth's development timeline," she said, displaying holographic renderings of the ruins. "These structures contain molecular arrangements that suggest they're over 2 million years old, yet they incorporate quantum field manipulators more advanced than our own." Xelveric dismissed her concerns with a wave of his four-fingered hand. "Contamination from previous unrecorded explorations, perhaps. The High Council has categorized this planet as a standard development world." "There's more," Kelnera insisted, projecting images of cave paintings discovered in France. "These primitive artworks contain stellar cartography matching progenitor mapping systems. It's mathematically impossible to be coincidental." Meanwhile, Dr. Chen led her archaeology team through the newly discovered chamber beneath the Sphinx. The Egyptian government had granted emergency access after the Zoranite arrival, hoping to uncover any advantage in the sudden reordering of Earth's place in the cosmos. "The hieroglyphs here don't match any known dynasty," her assistant remarked, running a scanner over the wall inscriptions. Maya nodded, her flashlight illuminating symbols that seemed to shift between ancient Egyptian and something far more complex. "They're similar to the Sumerian artifacts we found in Iraq last year, the ones nobody could translate." Her radio crackled. "Dr. Chen, we found something in the lower chamber. You need to see this immediately." Descending through narrow passages, Maya entered a room untouched for millennia. At its center stood a metallic obelisk covered in flowing script. What stopped her cold was the 7-foot hologram projecting from its apex, a slowly rotating Earth, but with continents in positions from 100,000 years ago. "It's impossible," her geologist whispered. "How could anyone from that era create this technology?" As Maya approached the obelisk, her equipment detected energy readings spiking. The script began to glow with a soft blue light. Across the globe in Antarctica, a Chinese research team reported similar phenomena. Ancient structures beneath the ice suddenly activating after millennia of dormancy. Back in Geneva, Xelveric received simultaneous reports from Zoranite observers worldwide. His composure finally cracked as he encoded an urgent message to the High Council. "Situation developing beyond initial parameters. Evidence suggests Earth may be a progenitor site. Request immediate reinforcements and full historical database access." In orbit, the Zoranite mothership's sensors detected faint energy signatures emanating from dozens of locations across Earth's surface, a network awakening after an impossibly long slumber. Within their most secure databases, an ancient warning flag activated, one not seen in 15,000 years of Zoranite exploration. "Caretaker world detected. Protocol Omega authorized. The firstborn must not awaken." The revelation beneath the Sphinx triggered a cascade of discoveries. Within days, archaeological teams worldwide reported similar findings. Ancient technology activating after human contact. The Aquilians arrived 3 weeks after the Zoranites, their massive organic ships resembling translucent moths hovering over major cities. Maya wiped sweat from her brow as she carefully documented the symbols on the obelisk. Unlike the Zoranites' metallic coldness, the Aquilians possessed an unsettling grace, their iridescent wings folded beneath diaphanous robes. Their lead scientist, Miratal, observed Maya's work with multifaceted eyes that reflected the chamber's blue light. "Your species has a curious relationship with your past," Mira Tal said, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into melodic English. "You build atop ancient foundations without understanding what lies beneath." Maya glanced up. "Sometimes we forget to look down." The Aquilian geneticist approached the obelisk, extending a delicate appendage toward the glowing script. The light dimmed immediately. Miratal's wings vibrated in what Maya recognized as frustration. "Interesting," the alien murmured. "It responds only to your bioelectrical field." Later that evening, Maya compared her findings with research teams from Peru and Indonesia via secure video conference. Professor Takashi from Kyoto University displayed 3D renderings of newly discovered chambers beneath Göbekli tape. "The script matches what you found in Egypt," he confirmed, "and the technology only activates in human presence." Dr. Okafor from Nigeria pointed to a particular sequence of symbols. "These appear in every site. They resemble Proto-Indo-European root words, but impossibly ancient." Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Admiral Thorne. "Zoranites requesting access to all archaeological sites. Human Security Council stalling. Need your assessment immediately." Meanwhile, aboard the Aquilian vessel, Mira Tal conducted genetic analysis on surreptitiously collected human samples. Her laboratory hummed with organic technology, living computers processing genetic sequences. "Impossible," she whispered as the results appeared. "Run it again." The confirmation came moments later. Human DNA contained embedded sequences that matched the creator glyphs found on every seeded world in the galaxy, markers believed to be the signature of the legendary progenitors. Miratal's wings fluttered in agitation as she prepared a transmission to the Aquilian hive. This discovery would append the galactic order. The supposedly primitive humans carried genetic markers of the beings who had shaped life throughout the cosmos. Back at the Sphinx, Maya made her own breakthrough. Examining the Zoranite translation technology, she noticed structural similarities between its base linguistic algorithm and symbols found on 5,000-year-old Sumerian tablets. "It can't be coincidence," she told her assistant. "Either the Zoranites influenced ancient Sumeria, or something influenced both," her assistant finished. That night, as Maya slept in her tent near the excavation site, the obelisk pulsed with increasing energy. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, the largest structure yet discovered began to hum with resonant frequency, causing scientific instruments worldwide to register unexplained readings. Aboard the Zoranite mothership, Xelveric received a priority message from his homeworld. The High Council had run Earth's archaeological data through their ancient archives and found disturbing correlations. Their message was brief but sent ripples of concern through the fleet. Site matches progenitor preservation protocol. Species designation upgraded to Omega-class potential. Containment authorized. The sleepers must not fully awaken. As dawn broke over the Sphinx, Maya awoke to find the Zoranite observation team had doubled overnight. Their scientific curiosity had been replaced with something she recognized immediately: fear. The international expedition trudged across the Antarctic ice fields, the howling wind drowning out conversation. Captain Lai Zhao led from the front, his thermal suit displaying vital signs that transmitted to the operations center back at McMurdo Station. Behind him walked Professor Samuel Okafor, the Nigerian linguist whose theories about Proto-Indo-European connections to the alien script had earned him a place on this critical mission. "The structure is just beyond this ridge," Zhao shouted over the comm system. "Satellite imaging shows it's larger than we initially thought." The Zoranite observers insisted on accompanying them, their environmental suits looking oddly organic compared to the bulky human equipment. Xelveric had abandoned his diplomatic posturing, his movements now betraying obvious anxiety. "Your species should not proceed without proper containment protocols," the alien diplomat warned, his translator struggling against the wind. "These sites require specialized handling." Zhou turned to face him. "These sites are on Earth. Our world, our jurisdiction. As they crested the ridge, the expedition halted in collective awe. What satellite imagery had shown as a modest anomaly under the ice was now revealed to be the exposed tip of a massive structure. Recent thermal events had melted away centuries of ice, unveiling a towering archway embedded in the Antarctic bedrock. The arch stood nearly 50 meters high, composed of a material that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "My God," someone whispered over the comm. Professor Okafor approached the arch, his instrument scanning the intricate symbols etched into its surface. These matched the patterns found in Egypt and Peru, but more complex, more complete. The Zornet science officer tried to intercept him. "We must establish a quarantine perimeter before." Too late. As the first human crossed the threshold, the entire structure illuminated from within. The ice beneath their feet vibrated as ancient systems awakened. The arch transformed into a doorway leading into a vast chamber where crystalline pillars reached toward a domed ceiling mapped with galaxies. The team entered cautiously, their headlamps unnecessary, as the chamber brightened at their presence. When the Zornet observers attempted to follow, the lights dimmed noticeably. The aliens exchanged troubled glances before reluctantly retreating. At the center of the chamber stood a dais with what appeared to be control interfaces. Holographic displays activated spontaneously, showing beings that looked eerily human yet somehow more. Their features were familiar but held a perfection that was slightly unsettling. The holographic figures spoke in a flowing language unlike anything the team had heard from Earth's civilizations or the visiting aliens. Professor Okafor stepped forward, his expression shifting from confusion to astonishment. "I recognize elements of this," he said, adjusting his recording equipment. "Not complete sentences, but word roots, Proto-Indo-European foundations. This shouldn't be possible in something so ancient." The hologram continued its message as Okafor translated fragments. "Guardians, until our return, the seeded worlds, our children among the stars." Captain Zhao approached one of the crystalline pillars, which pulsed with increased luminosity as he neared. "It's responding to our presence, specifically." Outside the chamber, Xelveric paced anxiously before encoding an emergency transmission to his homeworld. The message was brief, but held the weight of a civilization's foundations crumbling. "Humans accessing progenitor memory repository. Technology beyond our capabilities responding to their genetic signature." The ancient records were correct. They are the vessels of those we thought long vanished. Request immediate guidance. The firstborn walk among us. Maya Chen's laboratory at Cambridge University had become the central hub for analyzing artifacts from the global discovery sites. Security personnel guarded the entrances while researchers from a dozen countries collaborated inside. Maya carefully examined a crystalline fragment recovered from Antarctica under an electron microscope, its molecular structure defying conventional analysis. "The lattice pattern seems to shift when observed," she noted into her recorder, "almost as if it's responding to attention." She adjusted the calibration, her hand slipping on the controls. The edge of the fragment sliced her palm, drawing a thin line of blood. Maya cursed under her breath, reaching for a tissue. The first drop of blood touched the crystal surface. The fragment pulsed with sudden brilliance, its structure reorganizing before her eyes. The laboratory's electronic equipment activated simultaneously, screens filling with cascading data in an unknown script that began self-translating into multiple Earth languages. "What did you do?" Dr. Takashi asked, rushing to her side as alarms blared. "Nothing intentional," Maya replied, transfixed by the rapidly translating text. "It's responding to my blood." Across the campus, the secure servers containing all archaeological data from the discovery sites suddenly activated, processing information at unprecedented speeds. Similar events triggered worldwide, dormant artifacts responding to the activation signal that had originated in Maya's lab. 30 minutes later, the heads of major research teams convened in an emergency video conference. Professor Okafor's face appeared concerned on the main screen. "The same phenomenon has occurred at 14 sites globally," he reported. The activation sequence appears to have triggered some kind of network response. Admiral Thorne's voice cut in from Geneva. The Zoranites are demanding we cease all research immediately. They've declared Earth a biological hazard zone. That's not their only concern, interrupted a new voice. Miratal, the Aquilian geneticist, had joined the call unauthorized. Her multifaceted eyes reflected multicolored light as she transmitted data to their server. We've completed our analysis of human genetic samples. She continued, wings fluttering nervously. Your DNA contains embedded sequences that serve as biological keys to ancient systems. These markers match what we call creator glyphs, genetic signatures found on every seeded world in the galaxy. Stunned silence followed her revelation. Why are you telling us this? Maya finally asked. Because the Zoranet High Council has voted to quarantine Earth, Miratal replied. They fear what humanity represents. My people believe otherwise, that your awakening was inevitable. Outside, media reports showed growing crowds of alien visitors in major cities worldwide. Tourist ships from across the Alliance crowded Earth's orbit as rumors spread through the galactic community. Images from Times Square showed alien visitors photographing ordinary humans with reverent fascination. In his private chambers aboard the Zoranite command vessel, Zelveric reviewed the quarantine directive with growing unease. The screen displayed the official order: Earth containment authorized. Prevent further activation of progenitor technology. If necessary, sterilization protocols approved. His four-fingered hand hovered over the acknowledgement button. 15,000 years of Zoranite history taught that they were the eldest civilization, the rightful guides of younger species. Yet everything they discovered on Earth contradicted this fundamental belief. On his secondary screen, he watched footage of human children playing near the Washington Monument, which now glowed with the same energy signature as the ancient sites. One child's laughter seemed to intensify the luminescence. Zelveric made his decision. Instead of acknowledging the order, he composed a different message to selected ships in the fleet. Evidence suggests historical misconception. Request independent verification before irreversible action. The phenomenon began subtly. A Tokyo teenager sketching impossible cityscapes during math class, a Brazilian farmer waking with equations scratched into his bedroom wall, an Ethiopian grandmother suddenly speaking a language her family couldn't identify. Within days, millions reported the same vivid dreams. Crystalline cities rising from azure oceans, vast ships traversing the space between stars, and always the looming shadow approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge. Emily Takahashi's parents watched with mounting concern as their daughter filled notebook after notebook with intricate technical diagrams. The 16-year-old had always been bright but unremarkable in science. Now she drafted schematics for engines that bent spacetime itself. I see it when I close my eyes, she explained to the university physicists who had come to their Tokyo apartment. Like remembering something I've always known. The scientist examined her latest drawing, a perfect schematic for a quantum field manipulator more advanced than anything in current development. This would solve the Zoranite transit problem, he whispered to his colleague. They've been working on it for centuries. Similar cases emerged worldwide. A Kenyan farmer recited mathematical formulas that resolved theoretical problems the Zoranites considered unsolvable. A Canadian truck driver built a working model of a molecular synthesizer using household electronics. Children's drawings across 6 continents depicted identical star systems with perfect astronomical accuracy. Admiral Thorne convened an emergency session of the newly formed Human-Alien Cooperation Council. Representatives from Earth's nations sat alongside delegates from a growing number of alien species who had defied the Zoranite quarantine order. We're receiving reports of shared dreams and spontaneous knowledge affecting approximately 18% of Earth's population, Thorne reported. The percentage increases daily. Maya Chen presented her analysis. The activation of the archaeological sites appears to have triggered a response in human neurological patterns. People are accessing information they couldn't possibly know. The council chamber darkened unexpectedly. A shimmering blue presence materialized in the center of the room, a living cloud of consciousness housed in a containment field. The Mirioni representative had arrived. "We have observed your awakening with great interest." The Mirioni elder communicated directly into their minds, its thoughts translated into comprehensible language. "Our species has existed for 2 million of your years. We were among the first to achieve sentience after the disappearance." The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence as the ancient being continued. "We have suspected the truth for millennia, but dared not hope. When faced with extinction, the progenitors who seeded all worlds with life encoded their essence into your ancestors' genetic structure. The ultimate preservation strategy. You are not what you appear to be." The Mirioni's form pulsed with emotion. "The knowledge emerging through your dreams confirms our oldest theories. The progenitors did not vanish. They became you. They reduced themselves to a simpler form, hiding within a species that could evolve naturally, carrying their legacy within your very cells." Outside the council chamber, crowds gathered around public view screens broadcasting the historic meeting. Emily Takahashi stood among them in Tokyo, clutching her notebook. As the Mirioni spoke, her hand moved unconsciously across the page, sketching the familiar shadow approaching from the edge of a spiral galaxy. "They were running from something," she whispered to herself, the knowledge surfacing from somewhere deep within her consciousness, something that consumes light and thought. "That's why they hid inside us. They're trying to warn us it's coming back." In orbit, the Zoranet fleet received new orders from their High Council. Immediate intervention required. The human awakening must be terminated before completion. The Zoranite Armada dropped out of hyperspace in Earth's outer orbit, 15 dreadnoughts arranged in attack formation. Their weapons systems powered up immediately, targeting the planet's major population centers and archaeological sites. On the command deck of the flagship, Commander Vex Noran addressed his officers. "The High Council has declared this a preservation emergency," he announced, his silver skin tight with tension. "We face an existential threat to galactic order. If the human awakening completes, 15,000 years of Zoranite guidance will be questioned." Behind him, the tactical display showed Earth's defenses, primitive compared to their own technology, yet strangely augmented in recent days. Unknown energy signatures emanated from the ancient sites, forming a protective web around the planet. "All ships, prepare sterilization protocols," Vex Noran ordered. "Target the awakening nodes first, then population centers." "Commander," his communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Xelveric's vessel." The view screen activated, showing Xelveric flanked by officers from his diplomatic escort ships. "Stand down your weapons, Commander. I invoke Article 7 of the Zoranite Command Code. Verification of extinction-level orders." Vexinoran's skin pulsed with anger. "Your authority as ambassador was revoked when you failed to enforce quarantine." "I am not speaking as an ambassador," Xelveric replied calmly. "I speak as one who has seen the evidence firsthand. Our entire history is built on a falsehood. We are not the elders we claim to be." The bridge fell silent as he continued, transmitting data packets to the fleet. "These are translations from human archaeological sites, verified by independent xenolinguists from 7 species. They confirm what we have suspected. The humans carry the legacy of the progenitors themselves." Vexinoran wavered visibly. The High Council dismissed these claims. "The High Council fears what this means for our civilization," Xelveric countered. "We built our empire on the claim that we were the eldest, the wisest species. Our right to guide younger races justified every expansion, every intervention. If humans are the descendants of the progenitors, our foundation crumbles." On Earth, Maya Chen and Admiral Thorne monitored the confrontation through newly activated sensor arrays in Antarctica. The ancient technology provided perfect translations of the Zoranite exchange. "They're going to fire on us," Thorne said grimly, preparing to order Earth's limited defenses into action. "Wait," Maya urged, studying the energy readings from global archaeological sites. Something's happening. Across the galaxy, dormant progenitor technology activated simultaneously. Ancient defense systems, research stations, and beacons long thought to be natural formations came to life, responding to the genetic signals now emanating from Earth. On 100 worlds, structures hidden for millennia revealed themselves, startling their inhabitants. In orbit, the Zoranite fleet suddenly found themselves surrounded by shimmering fields of energy as dormant defense satellites awakened. Their targeting systems went offline. Propulsion engines stalled. Commander Vex Norin stared at his useless controls, then back at Xel Varric on the view screen. "What is happening?" "The awakening accelerates," Xel Varric replied. "These systems recognize human genetic signatures as authorization codes. They will not allow you to harm their creators' descendants." A new signal interrupted their exchange. A transmission from the Galactic Alliance headquarters, where representatives from 200 species had convened an emergency session. Their message was brief but definitive. The Zoranite Empire's claim to eldest status is formally challenged. Evidence confirms human connection to progenitor legacy. All military action against Earth prohibited pending full investigation. The age of Zoranite dominance has ended. Maya Chen stood atop Uluru, the massive sandstone formation in Australia's Northern Territory. Aboriginal elders had guided her team here, explaining that their Dreamtime stories had always spoken of this place as where the sky ancestors would return. The red rock glowed with the setting sun as Maya carefully positioned the crystalline artifact they'd transported from Antarctica. "All teams report ready status," her assistant confirmed through the comlink. Similar teams stood at key locations worldwide: Stonehenge, the Giza Plateau, Göbekli Tepe, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, and dozens more. Each team had positioned artifacts recovered from the Antarctic chamber, forming the global network of connection points. "The elders say this is sacred ground," the local guide explained. "Our people have maintained the knowledge for 40,000 years. The Rainbow Serpent's path connects to the stars from this place." Maya nodded respectfully. "We believe you were right all along. These sites form a planetary circuit that was hidden in plain sight for millennia." Admiral Thorne's voice came through her earpiece. "The Zoranite fleet remains disabled, but their reinforcements will arrive within hours. Whatever you're going to do, it needs to happen now." Maya studied the holographic display showing energy readings from sites worldwide. "The circuit is nearly complete. We're just missing the final connection." The elderly Aboriginal woman who had been watching silently stepped forward and took Maya's hand. "The connection requires blood of the Guardians," she said simply. "As it always has." Understanding dawned on Maya's face. She pressed her palm against the crystal artifact, reopening her barely healed cut from days earlier. As her blood touched the surface, the sandstone beneath them vibrated with awakening energy. Across the planet, similar scenes unfolded as team members made the same connection with their artifacts. The network hummed to life, energy flowing between sites like a global neural network. In orbit, alien observers recorded the phenomenon as Earth itself seemed to pulse with light visible from space. Ancient sites connected by lines of force that formed a complex geometric pattern across the planet's surface. Maya gasped as information flooded her consciousness, not overwhelming but integrating naturally, as if remembering rather than learning. Around the world, billions of humans experience the same sensation to varying degrees, accessing the collective memories stored within their genetic code. The process didn't transform humans physically, but instead granted access to the accumulated knowledge of the progenitors. Images formed in Maya's mind. A vast civilization spanning thousands of worlds, technological marvels beyond imagination, and then a growing darkness at the galaxy's edge. The truth emerged with crystal clarity. The progenitors weren't conquerors, but guardians who had seeded life throughout the cosmos and watched over it for millions of years. When faced with an extragalactic threat, they called the Void, a consciousness that consumed sentient energy, They made the ultimate sacrifice. Rather than fighting a war they knew they couldn't win conventionally, they encoded their consciousness, knowledge, and essence into the genetic structure of early hominids on Earth, a remote world they hoped the Void wouldn't notice. They reduced themselves from godlike beings to simple genetic code, preserving their legacy until the day their descendants would awaken and continue their mission. As the final connections completed, a message transmitted automatically from Earth to every corner of the galaxy, in all languages. The Guardians awaken. The Void approaches. All sentient life must prepare. In deep space, at the galaxy's edge, ancient warning beacons activated after millions of years of silence. Something vast and dark changed course, turning its attention toward a small blue planet it had overlooked before. The Void manifested at the edge of the solar system, 6 days after Earth's awakening. It appeared first as a distortion in space, a perfect absence of stars that expanded steadily toward the inner planets. The combined sensors of Earth and alien vessels tracked its approach with growing dread. In the newly established Galactic Defense Center beneath Geneva, representatives from 300 species gathered in desperate council. Maya Chen entered the chamber alongside Admiral Thorne, both now carrying the full awareness of their progenitor heritage, yet choosing to remain fundamentally human. The ancient records describe the Void as a non-corporeal entity that feeds on organized consciousness, Maya explained, displaying holographic models of its approach. Conventional weapons passed through it harmlessly during the first conflict. The Zoranet military commander, Vex Norin, now working in uneasy alliance with Earth, studied the data with dismay. Our fleet's most powerful weapons had no effect. The energy simply disappeared into that nothingness. The psychic defenses of the Aquilians were similarly ineffective, added Miratal, her wings drooping. Our telepathic barriers collapsed upon contact. Silence fell over the assembly as the implications sank in. Billions of lives across the galaxy faced extinction if the Void couldn't be stopped. Emily Takahashi, the teenage girl from Tokyo who had first dreamed of the ancient ships, stepped forward unexpectedly. "You're all thinking like the original progenitors," she said, her voice steady despite addressing the galaxy's most powerful leaders. "That's why they failed. They were too logical, too predictable." Maya recognized the wisdom in the girl's words. She's right. The progenitors were brilliant, but their civilization was built on perfect rationality. The Void could anticipate their every move because they always chose the optimal solution. "What alternative do we have?" Vex Noran demanded. "The human element," Admiral Thorne replied. The progenitors didn't hide in human DNA merely for concealment. They chose early hominids because they recognized something our species possessed that even they had lost: unpredictability, creativity, emotion, irrationality. Understanding dawned on Maya's face. That's why they didn't transform us into replicas of themselves during the awakening. They needed us to remain human. Within hours, a radical plan took shape. The ancient progenitor defense network, dormant for millions of years, was reactivated using human genetic keys. But instead of deploying it as a weapon as originally designed, humans reprogrammed it to create something unprecedented: a galaxy-spanning artistic transmission. As the Void entered the inner solar system, 1,000,000 human voices began singing in harmony. Children's laughter echoed between stars. Poetry in every Earth language flooded the transmission network. Artists worldwide poured their creativity into the signal, not ordered or logical, but chaotic, emotional, contradictory, and beautiful. The Void paused its advance, its perfect darkness rippling with what appeared to be confusion. It had evolved to counter logical defenses, to predict rational responses from sentient minds. But this cacophony of human emotion and creativity followed no discernible pattern. "It's working," Emily whispered, watching the sensor readings. "It can't process unpredictability." The attack came without warning. Not a weapon, but an overwhelming transmission of human joy, grief, love, music, poetry, and art. patterns that made perfect sense to the human heart, but followed no logical structure the void could analyze. For the first time, in its ancient existence, the void encountered something it could not consume: the beautiful irrationality of human consciousness, the chaotic emotions that defy prediction. The void retreated, pulling back from the solar system. Then the galaxy's edge, its perfect darkness disrupted by ripples of confusion. The unpredictability of human creativity had become the shield that protected all sentient life.